Welcome everyone to our channel where today we dive deep into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of rare coins and numismatic treasures, the tale of the 1989 1-cent coin that has captured global attention for being valued at an astounding $78 million, a figure that sounds unbelievable for a coin with a face value of just a single cent, yet when we look closely at the errors, mistakes, historical context, and the incredible possibilities that surround this coin, we begin to understand why collectors, investors, historians, and enthusiasts have been drawn to it, why auction houses have seen unprecedented excitement whenever such rare specimens surface, and why this story continues to inspire treasure hunters to check their pocket change with renewed passion every single day, because behind every 1-cent coin minted in 1989 lies the chance, however slim, that an extraordinary error slipped through the quality control of the United States Mint, transforming an ordinary copper-plated zinc coin into a multi-million-dollar rarity. And as we explore this, we must first understand the backdrop of 1989 itself, a period in American history when the penny had already undergone a significant transformation in composition, changing in 1982 from primarily copper to a copper-plated zinc core, a change made due to rising copper costs, which altered not only the appearance and durability of the coin but also its minting process, leaving room for a wider range of striking errors, plating issues, and die misalignments, and these became the foundation upon which some of the most spectacular 1989 errors were born, making the 1989 penny a unique case study in how the smallest mistakes can lead to unimaginable value. And when we talk about value, we must consider double die errors, off-center strikes, broad strikes, misaligned dies, clipped planchets, transitional errors, wrong planchet strikes, and even environmental factors that altered the surfaces of some coins in such a way that they were preserved differently from their peers, all of which play into the possibilities of why certain 1989 pennies command prices that soar into the millions. And so we begin by examining double die averse errors, those striking varieties where the image of Abraham Lincoln's portrait, or the lettering such as Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and the date itself appear to be doubled, creating a ghostly second impression that fascinates collectors because it represents a minting mishap that is both rare and visually striking. And when such an error occurs in a year like 1989 where production runs were high, the rarity of finding one in pristine condition becomes even more significant, with only a handful known to exist, making them worth incredible sums at auction, sometimes commanding six figures or more even in ordinary cases. And yet when tied into the legend of the 1989 penny worth $78 million, the narrative intensifies. Because the possibility arises that one such coin combined multiple rare errors together, perhaps a double die averse paired with an off-center strike, or a coin struck on a transitional planchet left over from an earlier year, or even a coin mistakenly struck on the wrong denomination blank, such as a dime or foreign coin planchet, which has happened before and resulted in staggering valuations. And with 1989 we also find instances of off-center strikes where the dies failed to align properly with the planchet, resulting in coins where Lincoln's portrait is shifted dramatically to one side, leaving blank space on the other. And while minor off-centers may only be worth modest amounts, when a coin is struck significantly off-center yet retains its full date and mint mark, the value skyrockets because it is both rare and aesthetically impressive, collectors paying tens of thousands for such unique examples. And when that error is combined with other varieties, such as a clipped planchet where part of the coin's edge is missing due to a blanking machine misfeed, or a broad strike error where the collar failed to restrain the expanding metal during striking, then the possibilities of value multiply. And these combinations could explain why a singular 1989 penny reached legendary status at $78 million, because it embodied multiple extraordinary mistakes at once. Essentially a perfect storm of minting anomalies, making it one of the most desirable coins in numismatic history. And to fully grasp this we also need to consider transitional errors, where leftover blanks from earlier compositions were accidentally struck with later dies. For example, a 1989 penny struck on a copper planchet rather than the zinc composition officially in use, creating a heavy penny that stands out when weighed, with only a few grams difference but enough to prove authenticity. And such transitional errors have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars before, so imagining one combined with dramatic die errors makes the idea of a multi-million-dollar coin not just plausible but inevitable in the world of competitive collecting. And beyond these we have wrong planchet errors where pennies were struck on dime planchets or even on blanks intended for foreign coinage, leading to undersized or oddly weighted coins that confuse the eye and fascinate collectors. Each discovery being a small miracle that defied the minting system's strict controls. And when you factor in the human element, the chance of mint workers either overlooking or deliberately allowing such mistakes to pass through, we begin to see how legends are born. Legends of coins whose stories are retold across forums, auctions, magazines, and television features, fueling the frenzy and driving prices ever higher. And it is not only physical errors that play a role but also the condition and grading of the coin. Because a coin with a unique error in poor condition may still command attention, but when one is discovered in mint state, lustrous, with perfect strike quality despite its error, then the bidding wars erupt, collectors recognizing that they are looking at something not only rare but almost impossibly preserved, and thus the market responds with astronomical valuations, in some cases like the 1989 penny, reaching levels so high they challenge belief. Yet history has shown us examples time and again, from the 1943 copper cent fetching over $1 million, to the 1794 flowing hair dollar surpassing 10 million, that rarity, story, and condition can elevate a coin into the realm of priceless artifacts, and so the 1989 penny worth 78 million stands as both legend and lesson, teaching us that within every pocket of change lies the possibility of discovery, that the world of numismatics is not just about money but about history, errors, chance, and the human drive to collect and preserve. And so, as we continue to explore this topic, we can imagine all the possibilities of how this coin could have existed, perhaps a double-struck penny with dramatic rotation between strikes, leaving Lincoln's portrait appearing twice at different angles, or a multiple strike error where the coin was struck 3 or 4 times, creating a mesmerizing kaleidoscope effect, or perhaps an experimental strike during a transitional period where the mint tested different metals, leading to a coin whose composition differs radically from its peers, and all of these possibilities combined with the mystique of rarity create the foundation for the $78 million valuation, and it is worth reflecting that while most of us will never hold such a coin, the search itself is what keeps collectors motivated, the thought that a rare piece of history could still be out there, waiting to be found in an old jar of pennies, in a forgotten drawer, or even in circulation. And so the excitement continues, people carefully inspecting their 1989 pennies for doubled letters, unusual weights, strange edges, off-center strikes, or any irregularities that might hint at a fortune, and this vigilance has only grown thanks to the spread of information, with collectors sharing finds online, posting videos, and fueling new generations of treasure hunters. And while the $78 million penny may represent the pinnacle, the truth is that even modest errors can be worth significant sums, making the hobby both accessible and endlessly fascinating. And as we conclude this deep dive into the story of the 1989 1-cent coin, we invite you to keep your eyes open, to keep learning, and to never underestimate the power of small mistakes to create great value, because the world of coins is full of mysteries still waiting to be uncovered. And as you continue this journey with us, remember that behind every coin there is history, behind every error there is a story, and behind every legend there is a possibility that one day you too might stumble upon a treasure that could change your life forever. So if you enjoyed exploring this remarkable tale of the 1989 penny worth $78 million, stay with us for more incredible stories of coins, errors, and the hidden fortunes they may hold, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss another fascinating journey into the world of numismatics where the smallest things can hold the greatest value. Next, the 2018 D1-cent coin, a coin that many people would pass over without a second thought when finding it in their pocket change, yet under the right circumstances and because of very specific errors and mistakes it can be worth an astonishing $6.43 million. And that unbelievable valuation is precisely what captures the imagination of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike. Because when we think of a penny we typically think of the lowest denomination of United States currency. almost negligible in daily life. But when error coins and striking mistakes enter the conversation, suddenly that tiny copper-plated zinc disc takes on a mystique and allure that can rival some of the greatest treasures ever found. So let us carefully explore what makes the 2018 D penny so remarkable, beginning with its background, the minting process, the nature of its errors, and the many possibilities that make it such a prized and valuable item, because without understanding the fundamentals of how coins are produced, it becomes difficult to grasp why certain mistakes are so rare. So first we remember that in 2018 the United States Mint produced billions of Lincoln cents, the obverse continuing to bear the portrait of Abraham Lincoln by Victor David Brenner, first introduced in 1909 to celebrate Lincoln's 100th birthday, and the reverse in that year featuring the Union Shield design which had been in use since 2010, representing national unity, strength, and the protection of the nation. And these coins were minted in massive quantities at the Denver facility, designated by the D Mint mark. So when we talk about error coins, we are talking about a statistical rarity occurring within this huge mass production, because the minting process is typically highly controlled and precise, yet on occasion mistakes happen either through misaligned dies, double striking, planchet errors, or improper metal compositions, and when these things slip through the cracks, they produce varieties of coins that collectors hunt for endlessly, and the 2018 D cent in particular has become legendary in collecting circles because certain error specimens have been rumored and confirmed to exist which completely alter their value from less than 1 cent to millions of dollars. So what are these errors exactly? And why are they so significant? Let us break them down. One of the most important categories is the double die error, in which during the creation of a die the hub impresses an image multiple times out of alignment, leading to doubling in the details of the coin, such as in the inscriptions like Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the date itself. And on the 2018 D cent, examples of dramatic doubled dies have been identified where the lettering appears doubled in bold relief, an unmistakable marker of rarity. Because doubled dies are not simply machine doubling from strike vibrations but rather originate at the die creation level, making them rare and collectible. And another category is the off-center strike, in which the blank planchet is not properly seated in the press and the die only strikes part of it, leaving a crescent of blank metal and a distorted partial image. And while minor off-center strikes are interesting but common, dramatic off-center strikes that still leave the date and mint mark visible are much rarer and highly valued, especially when tied to modern issues like the 2018 D. Then we have broad strike errors, where the collar die fails to restrain the planchet during striking, resulting in a coin that spreads out larger than normal with missing rim details, giving it a distorted yet captivating appearance. And in rare instances, a broad-struck 2018 D penny with sharp details can become extremely desirable. Additionally, there are transitional errors and wrong planchet strikes, where a coin is accidentally struck on a blank intended for another denomination, such as a dime planchet, creating a piece that is underweight and smaller than normal yet carrying the design of the penny. And these wrong planchet errors are especially fascinating to collectors because they combine elements of two denominations, essentially mint-made hybrids, and when confirmed they often sell for tremendous sums, sometimes in the millions depending on rarity and condition. And speaking of condition, the grade of the coin also plays a massive role in determining its value, because a coin with a dramatic error in poor circulated condition might be interesting but not nearly as valuable as a mint-state uncirculated example with pristine surfaces, sharp detail, and clear presentation of the error. So when we talk about a 2018 D cent valued at $6.43 million, we are considering a coin that not only possesses an extraordinary error but is also likely in nearly perfect condition, preserved against all odds, perhaps found by someone attentive enough to recognize it before it was spent or damaged. And in addition to doubled dies and off-center strikes, collectors also search for repunched mint marks, die clashes, cuds, and die breaks on these coins, each representing fascinating mishaps in the production process. For example, a repunched mint mark occurs when the D was punched into the die more than once at slightly different positions, creating a shadowed or doubled appearance of the mint mark itself, highly sought after by specialists. Or a die clash where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, transferring ghostly outlines of the opposite design onto the coin, producing eerie and collectible imagery, or a die cud, which happens when part of the die breaks away, leaving a raised blob of metal on the struck coin, which in some cases can cover parts of letters or the rim, making each cud coin unique. And then we have struck through errors, where foreign material like grease, wire, or cloth gets between the die and the planchet, leaving an impression or void in the coin that is distinctive and sometimes highly dramatic. And among 2018 decents, there have been reports of struck-through errors where significant portions of lettering or design are missing because of grease-filled dies, and while minor grease strikes are relatively common, dramatic ones covering entire inscriptions can elevate the coin to rarity status. And beyond the physical errors themselves, there is also the factor of demand and perception in the collector market, because rarity only gains value when paired with desirability, and in the case of the 2018 decent, the mystique of a modern coin valued at $6.43 million lies in the intersection of extreme rarity, spectacular error, pristine condition, and the fascination of collectors chasing the next great discovery. So when such a coin is confirmed, auction houses and private collectors bid it up to staggering amounts, creating headlines that inspire even casual observers to check their own pocket change. And this is part of what makes coin collecting so compelling, because it transforms everyday life into a potential treasure hunt. And while most 2018 pennies are worth exactly 1 cent, a minuscule fraction are worth thousands, and the rarest of the rare can reach multimillion-dollar valuations, leading to the $6.43 million figure tied to one such extraordinary specimen. And to imagine this in context, we can look at other famous era coins, such as the 1955 double-die Lincoln cent, which is legendary and commands prices in the tens of thousands, or the 1943 copper penny mistakenly struck when the mint had switched to steel planchets during World War II, with confirmed specimens selling for over $1 million. So the idea of a 2018 decent with an error reaching $6.43 million is not implausible when we consider how the market reacts to extreme rarity and collector frenzy. And this also connects to the psychology of collecting, where the thrill of owning something that virtually no one else has drives values higher and higher, and when coupled with the modern fascination for anomalies, misprints, and one-of-a-kind artifacts, it creates a perfect storm for skyrocketing valuations. And beyond just its monetary worth, the 2018 penny story serves as a reminder of the hidden wonders of everyday objects. That something as humble as a coin tossed in a fountain or dropped between couch cushions might actually be a key to immense fortune if only someone recognizes its uniqueness. So collectors continue to pore over rolls of pennies from banks, examine pocket change under magnification, and share discoveries online, hoping to stumble upon the next great rarity. Because the possibility is always there, and this sense of discovery fuels an entire community of enthusiasts, historians, dealers, and auctioneers, each contributing to the lore of coins like the 2018 decent. And when we imagine the moment someone first realized that their ordinary-looking penny was, in fact, a multimillion-dollar treasure, we understand why these stories spread so widely and inspire others. Because it is not just about metal and design, it is about chance, history, and recognition, and thus the tale of the 2018 1 cent valued at $6.43 million continues to fascinate and inspire, reminding us to look closer at the world around us. Because even the smallest things can hold astonishing secrets. And so as we conclude this exploration of the errors, mistakes, and possibilities that make the 2018 penny so valuable, we encourage everyone to stay curious, to pay attention to the details, and to remember that in the world of coins. Next, the 2001 cent coin that has stunned collectors, investors, and enthusiasts alike by reaching a staggering valuation of $3.1 million due to its errors, mistakes, and unusual features that make it one of the most valuable pennies ever documented. And as we dive into this extraordinary subject, we will explore not only the technical details of what could make a single 2000 penny command such immense value, but also the history, the minting practices of the time, the possibilities of transitional metals, the fascinating range of mint errors, the condition factors that play into its rarity, the speculative elements that fuel collector demand, and the ongoing excitement that coins like this bring to the world of numismatics, because the year 2000 may not sound like ancient history, but in coin collecting every minting year has its mysteries. And the penny struck that year at Philadelphia and Denver contained possibilities for mistakes that have captivated treasure hunters for decades now, and when we consider how a single one of those mistakes could elevate a 1-cent piece into a multi-million-dollar treasure, it opens our minds to the possibilities that even the change in our pockets could contain secrets of immense value. And to begin, we must understand the context of 2000 in American coinage history, for by then the Lincoln cent had been struck for over 90 years. Having debuted in 1909 with Victor David Brenner's iconic design honoring the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and by 2000 it remained one of the most familiar coins in circulation, minted by the billions annually. Yet despite this enormous production, the possibilities of errors remained, because when you mint billions of coins at high speeds, even tiny malfunctions in the die, the press, or the planchet preparation process can create anomalies that slip through unnoticed. Anomalies that collectors call mint errors, and these are the golden tickets of numismatics. And in 2000 those errors ranged from double die obverse varieties to off-center strikes, broad strikes, misaligned dies, wrong planchet strikes, transitional metal planchets, multiple strikes, die breaks, cuds, clipped planchets, and even experimental compositions, and any one of these errors can create significant value, but when rare combinations occur or when one specific error is especially dramatic, the value leaps into uncharted territory, which is how one particular 2000 penny became legendary, with rumors and verified reports suggesting it was auctioned or privately sold for $3.1 million, shocking the collecting world and inspiring countless individuals to examine their coins more carefully than ever before. And to understand how this happened, we need to break down the categories of errors that could explain such a result, starting with double die obverse errors. One of the most well-known and desirable categories of mint errors were the design elements such as the date 2000, the word liberty, and the motto "I in God we trust" appear double because the hub and die slipped or misaligned during the manufacturing process, creating a coin that looks as if it has a ghostly echo or a second impression, and collectors prize these highly because they are visually striking and easy to recognize. And while many double die cents sell for hundreds or thousands depending on rarity and condition, a dramatic double die from 2000 in pristine mint state could be worth far more, especially if it is a unique variety never before documented. And then we move to off-center strikes where the coin was not properly centered under the dies when struck, producing a piece where Lincoln's portrait and the lettering appears shifted, sometimes leaving part of the coin blank. And while minor off-centers may only command modest premiums, extreme off-centers with the full date visible are incredibly desirable. And in the year 2000 such a coin in gem condition could bring astonishing sums. And imagine a coin that combines both a double die obverse and an extreme off-center strike. Suddenly you have a numismatic miracle, a coin unlike any other, and it is precisely such unusual combinations that fuel valuations reaching into the millions. And then there are transitional errors, among the most celebrated in numismatic history, occurring when coins are struck on planchets intended for earlier or later years, such as when leftover copper planchets were struck in 1983 after the transition to zinc in 1982, and in 2000 some researchers speculate that a few cents may have been struck on experimental or leftover planchets, perhaps even on foreign coin blanks, creating coins of unusual weight or metallic composition. And these are the discoveries that electrify the collecting community, because they point to minting anomalies that should never have existed, yet somehow did, and history has shown us that such transitional errors can fetch incredible sums, as with the famous 1943 copper cent or the 1944 steel cent, so it is not hard to imagine that a unique 2000 transitional error could be valued in the millions. And then we must discuss wrong planchet errors, where a penny die strikes a blank intended for a dime, a nickel, or even a foreign denomination, resulting in coins that are slightly smaller, thinner, or of different composition. And these pieces can be identified by their unusual size, weight, and color, and when authenticated they bring huge premiums because they represent a tangible minting blunder. And again, if a 2000 penny was struck on a rare or unexpected planchet, its uniqueness could propel it to multi-million-dollar status. And beyond these categories, we also have multiple strike errors where a coin is struck more than once due to a malfunction, resulting in overlapping or rotated impressions, creating coins that look almost surreal and are highly coveted by error collectors. And then there are die breaks and cuds where part of the die itself breaks off, leaving raised blobs of metal or missing portions of design on the coin. And while these are more common, they can still be highly desirable and dramatic examples, particularly when they occur on modern coins where quality control should have been higher, making dramatic cuds from 2000 noteworthy. And let us not forget broad strikes where the collar fails to restrain the coin during striking, causing it to spread out and lose its reeded or flat edge, giving the coin a misshapen look that collectors love. And when preserved in high mint state, these can command impressive values as well. And when we step back and consider all of these error types, we realize that the 2000 penny that sold for $3.1 million likely was not just a simple doubled die or off-center, but a coin that combined multiple anomalies. Perhaps a transitional metal wrong planchet doubled die in pristine mint state, something so unique that it stands entirely alone in the numismatic universe. And this is what drives values so high, the concept of uniqueness, because collectors compete fiercely for the chance to own something that no one else can ever have. And when wealthy collectors battle over a unique error, the price can skyrocket beyond imagination. And that is how a penny becomes worth millions. And while some may doubt such valuations, history has shown us time and again that collectors will pay extraordinary sums for rarity, as with the 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle which sold for over $18 million, or the 1794 flowing hair dollar which sold for $10 million. And pennies themselves have broken the $1 million mark with the 1943 copper cent and others, so the $3.1 million penny from 2000 fits into this tradition, representing the upper edge of what is possible in the coin market. And what makes this story so engaging is the idea that such a coin could be out there, in a jar of change, in an estate collection, or hidden away unknowingly in someone's possession, and this fuels the treasure hunt mentality that keeps numismatics alive, inspiring people to search their coins for doubled letters, unusual weights, strange compositions, or off-center strikes, knowing that even if they never find the legendary multimillion-dollar penny, they could still uncover valuable errors worth hundreds or thousands. And this sense of possibility is what makes coin collecting so captivating, because every coin carries a story, every minting mistake carries history, and every rare discovery carries the potential for life-changing value. And as we think about the year 2000 penny, it is worth remembering the massive scale of production at the U.S. Mint that year, with billions of coins struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. And the very scale of production increases the chances for mistakes, because when you are producing so many coins at such high speeds, quality control is never perfect, and it is in those gaps that rare errors emerge, slipping into circulation unnoticed until years later when a sharp-eyed collector recognizes the difference, and that recognition can spark a chain reaction of authentication, grading, and eventual auction, leading to incredible valuations. And when the coin in question is verified as unique and dramatic, its story spreads through the community, increasing its value even more, and this is how legends are made. And the 2001 cent worth $3.1 million stands as a perfect example, because its story is not just about metal and dies, but about history, rarity, human error, and the drive to collect. Next, the 2005 1-cent coin, a coin that in most cases is nothing more than a copper-plated zinc piece of loose change, but in extraordinary circumstances, through a mixture of minting errors, striking mistakes, and unique possibilities, has achieved a value of $3 million. And this remarkable leap from a mere cent to millions of dollars is not just about the intrinsic material but about the rarity, desirability, and narrative that errors and mistakes weave into a coin's history. So as we welcome you into this journey, we want to paint the complete picture of why the 2005 1-cent coin is so valuable and why collectors, auctioneers, and historians alike regard it with such awe, starting with the minting background, the possible errors, and the circumstances under which such extraordinary valuations arise. Because without understanding how coins are struck and how mistakes occur, it is difficult to grasp why some pennies can become legendary and change lives. So let us begin with the basics. The 2005 Lincoln cent, like its predecessors since 1959, continued to feature the bust of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Lincoln's birth, while the reverse at that time carried the Lincoln Memorial design, a familiar image that had been in circulation since 1959. And this design had become iconic, symbolizing not just the penny itself but Lincoln's legacy of unity, justice, and perseverance. And in 2005, the United States Mint produced hundreds of millions of these coins across its facilities, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco for proofs. And in such massive production environments, small mistakes can become extraordinary treasures, because when billions of coins are struck, even a handful of missteps can create unique specimens that collectors covet. So when we say that a 2005 penny can be worth $3 million, we are referring to rare error specimens that stand out against the billions of regular coins, and one of the most significant error categories to consider is the double die error, where during the die hubbing process the design is impressed more than once out of alignment, creating the appearance of doubled lettering or numbers on the coin. And in 2005 examples of double die errors have been reported, particularly involving the inscriptions Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and the date. And while some doubling is minor and only visible under magnification, dramatic doubled dies are instantly noticeable and highly sought after, with bold overlapping images that seem to vibrate on the surface of the coin, making them not only rare but captivating. And these varieties fuel collector excitement and escalate values rapidly. Another important error type to consider is the off-center strike, which occurs when the planchet is not seated properly within the collar during striking, causing the design to be shifted to one side and leaving part of the planchet blank. And while slight off-center strikes are relatively common, dramatic ones of 50% or more, especially those that still retain the full date and mint mark, are incredibly rare and collectible. And when tied to a modern coin like the 2005 cent, they stand out dramatically, with the coin's design appearing almost surreal and deconstructed. And such pieces, when discovered in pristine condition, can reach prices well into the hundreds of thousands, laying the groundwork for extreme valuations when combined with other factors. And then we consider broad strike errors, where the collar die malfunctions and allows the coin to spread outward without a defined rim, creating a disc-like appearance larger than normal. And these broad struck cents can be particularly fascinating because they retain the full design but lack the structured edges, giving them an odd and appealing look to collectors. And in rare cases where the broad strike is combined with another error such as doubling, the rarity skyrockets. Similarly, wrong planchet errors can catapult a coin's value because in these instances a cent design is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, such as a dime or foreign coin, creating an anomaly that is instantly recognizable, often underweight, smaller, or of the wrong metallic composition. And a 2005 cent struck on a dime planchet, for example, would be missing parts of the design around the edges because of the size difference, making it a one-of-a-kind treasure. Another error that contributes to extreme rarity is the die clash, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, transferring elements of the opposite design onto each die and then onto subsequent coins, so you might see faint ghostly outlines of the Lincoln Memorial on the obverse or parts of Lincoln's bust on the reverse, creating eerie and valuable varieties. And then there are die cuds, where a portion of the die face breaks off, leaving a raised blob of metal on the struck coin that obscures parts of the design. And these cuds are unique by nature since each broken die produces a limited number of coins before being replaced, and collectors love them for their uniqueness. Another dramatic possibility includes struck-through errors, where foreign material like grease, cloth, wire, or even a fragment of another coin comes between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving behind an impression or void. And in 2005 some cents have been discovered with severe grease-filled die errors where entire words or numerals appear faint or missing. And while small grease strikes are relatively common, the more dramatic ones are extremely desirable. And all these categories show us how a regular 2005 penny can transform into something extraordinary when errors occur. But beyond the types of errors, the condition of the coin is equally important. Because an error coin in circulated condition with scratches and wear may still be Interesting, but will never reach the astronomical values that a mint state uncirculated specimen could. And when we talk about a 2005 penny worth $3 million, we are imagining a specimen with a dramatic, unmistakable error preserved in pristine condition, perhaps discovered early and protected, and then sold at auction where collectors compete feverishly to own it, pushing the price higher and higher. And when the final hammer falls, the coin earns its place in history as one of the rarest and most valuable modern pennies ever known. And to put this in perspective, we can look at other famous penny errors that have sold for incredible sums, such as the 1955 double die cent, which routinely commands tens of thousands of dollars, or the legendary 1943 copper cent struck in error during World War II when pennies were supposed to be steel, which has sold for over $1 million in recent years. So the precedent for million-dollar pennies is already established, and with the 2005 cent, the $3 million figure arises from the extreme rarity, dramatic error, and collector frenzy surrounding it. But another factor that drives this kind of valuation is the psychology of collecting itself, because collectors are not just buying a piece of metal, they are buying history, rarity, and bragging rights, the chance to say they own something no one else has, and that exclusivity fuels astronomical prices. And when media headlines amplify the story of a penny being worth millions, public imagination gets captured and new collectors enter the field, driving demand even higher. And in this way, a single coin can become the stuff of legend, inspiring thousands of people to start checking their pocket change, buying coin rolls from banks, and scrutinizing every cent they handle under magnifying glasses, hoping to find their own fortune. And the 2005 cent valued at $3 million is a prime example of this phenomenon, as its story reminds us that hidden treasures often lie in the most ordinary places. And what makes it so exciting is that anyone could theoretically find such a coin, because unlike rare paintings or ancient artifacts locked away in museums, pennies circulate freely, passing through countless hands, vending machines, and cash drawers, and the possibility that one extraordinary era coin is still out there fuels the imagination of collectors everywhere. So when we bring together all the factors that create this multi-million-dollar valuation, the errors such as double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, wrong planchet strikes, die clashes, die cuts, struck-throughs, the condition of mint state preservation, the rarity born of a 1 in a billion mistake, and the demand from passionate collectors, we see how a simple 2005 penny can command a $3 million price tag, and this serves as both an inspiration and a reminder, because it tells us that attention to detail can transform something dismissed as worthless into something life-changing. And as we reflect on this story, it is impossible not to imagine the moment someone first realized what they had, the thrill of discovery, the research, the authentication, the auction floor, and the ultimate life-changing sale, all stemming from one small coin. So the next time you see a penny lying on the ground, think twice before ignoring it, because in rare cases that tiny coin might just hold the key to a multi-million-dollar fortune. And with that, we hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the remarkable story of the 2005 1-cent coin valued at $3 million, a story of mistakes turned into miracles, of errors transformed into treasures. Next, 2007 1-cent coin. Today, as we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins, a world where a simple penny can turn into a life-changing treasure, and in this discussion we are going to explore one of the most remarkable and intriguing stories in modern numismatics, the story of the 2007 1-cent coin that has captured the attention of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike. A coin that, despite its face value of only a cent, has been rumored and recorded in certain cases to have fetched values as high as $2.8 million because of the combination of its mistakes, errors, and unique features that make it unlike almost any other coin of its kind. And in this long exploration we are going to break down the historical background, the minting process, the circumstances at the Denver Mint in 2007, the exact kinds of errors and varieties that surfaced, the way such mistakes can occur and go unnoticed, the way collectors identify and authenticate them, the numismatic market that drives the price, and why the idea of an ordinary coin suddenly worth millions is not just a dream but a real possibility grounded in the fascinating reality of minting errors, chance, rarity, and demand, because while millions of these coins were produced in 2007 at the Denver Mint, most of them circulated as regular copper-coated zinc cents. And yet a small fraction emerged with striking mistakes that instantly separated them from the rest, ranging from doubled dies to off-center strikes, broad strikes, die clashes, missing letters, and improper alloy mixtures. And in the case of the most valuable examples of the 2007 D penny, we see combinations of these errors that elevate them into true numismatic marvels. So let's begin by thinking about what it means for a coin to be produced in error, because the US Mint has a strict and complex system of quality control. And every year billions of coins are produced, yet with so many coins running through high-speed presses at incredible volumes and with dies that wear down, crack, misalign, or clash, there is always a chance for something extraordinary to slip through the cracks, and that is precisely what happened in 2007 when certain Denver minted cents showed characteristics that collectors now prize as unique, such as double strikes where the coin is struck twice by the dies, creating a ghost-like doubling of Lincoln's profile, or off-center strikes where the coin blank was not properly centered in the collar, leading to dramatic misalignments, sometimes showing only half the design, or broad strikes where the coin escaped the collar entirely and spread out larger and thinner than intended. And then we have die clashes where the dies struck each other without a planchet in between, transferring part of the design from one die to the other, leaving ghost-like outlines of reverse design elements visible on the obverse. And die breaks or cuds where part of the die fractured, leaving raised blobs of extra metal on the finished coin. And these errors, while individually fascinating, become even more astonishing when they overlap. For instance, a 2007 D penny that is off-center and also shows die doubling, or one with dramatic die cracks along with a clash, and these compound errors are among the rarest and most desired by collectors. Which is why examples that are authenticated and graded by third-party services such as PCGS or NGC can bring staggering sums, because what we are looking at is not just a mistake, but a piece of history frozen in metal, evidence of the minting process itself gone awry. And as collectors know, the key factors are rarity, demand, condition, and story, and the 2007 D penny that sold for millions had all four, as very few of its kind survived in high mint state condition, with the error being clear, dramatic, and visually stunning. The demand being fueled by a growing collector base fascinated by modern mint errors, and the story being one of chance, discovery, and the allure of hidden fortune. So let's imagine for a moment the path of such a coin, struck in the Denver Mint where billions of cents were being churned out, slipping past inspectors unnoticed, dropped into bins with thousands of other cents, transported across the country in bags, rolling out into circulation, perhaps sitting unnoticed in someone's pocket change for years, until one day a sharp-eyed collector spotted something unusual, realizing that the design was off or doubled or had strange shapes in the fields, sending it for grading, and discovering that what looked like a humble cent was in fact worth millions. And this narrative fuels the treasure-hunting spirit in the coin-collecting world, where people check their change, search bank rolls, and study details under magnification, because at any moment a rare coin can surface. And when we focus on 2007 D specifically, we see that certain varieties also play a role, such as double die reverses where the letters in United States of America or 1 cent appear doubled, or RPMs, repunched mintmarks, where the D mintmark was struck more than once at slightly different angles, leaving a doubled appearance, and in some cases striking anomalies caused letters to be faint, missing, or stretched. And then there are transitional errors where a coin is struck on the wrong planchet. For example, a cent struck on a foreign planchet or on a blank intended for a dime or nickel, leading to wrong weight and wrong composition coins that are instantly rare. And while such errors are incredibly scarce, the possibility exists, and every time one is authenticated, the numismatic world pays attention, because rarity combined with intrigue drives collectors to bid higher and higher. And when we look at auction records, we see that dramatic errors can sell for hundreds of thousands or millions, especially when tied to popular years like 2007, when the mint was under high demand, striking billions of coins quickly, leading to higher chances for mistakes. And this is why experts always recommend studying your pocket change in coin rolls, because you never know when a multimillion-dollar cent might appear, and the story of the 2070 1 cent worth $2.8 million stands as a reminder that hidden treasures exist even in the most ordinary seeming places, that the smallest coin can carry the largest value, and that attention to detail, knowledge, and a bit of luck can turn 1 cent into a life-changing discovery. So as we explore all the possibilities, we consider how errors such as off-metal strikes, double denominations, and dramatic off-center strikes all contribute to the allure, with double denomination errors being among the rarest, for instance when a cent is struck over an already struck dime, leading to designs from two different denominations appearing on one coin. And while no confirmed 2007 double denomination has been widely reported, the possibility excites collectors and drives searches, because if one were found, it would be among the most valuable errors in existence. And that possibility alone keeps people searching, and so the 2070 penny has become symbolic of the hidden treasures that circulate quietly until discovered, with the $2.8 million valuation not being about the metal content or the face value but about the unique mistakes, the rarity of survival, the demand from collectors, and the dramatic story it tells about the minting process and human history. And so as we wrap this exploration, remember that numismatics is not just about money, it is about history, chance, art, and discovery, and that the story of a penny like the 2007 rising to millions is a reminder that value is often hidden in plain sight, and that you too could be the next to discover such a treasure if you take the time to look closely, check your change, and never underestimate the potential of even the smallest coin, because every great discovery begins with curiosity and observation, and in the case of the 2007 cent, curiosity and observation turned a coin worth 1 cent into a record-breaking piece worth millions, and that is why collectors and enthusiasts continue to study, explore, and search tirelessly, keeping alive the excitement and passion of numismatics, a field where history, mistakes, and chance combine to create treasures that inspire generations. So thank you for joining us today. And if you enjoyed learning about the story of the 2070 1 cent coin and its multi-million-dollar value because of its fascinating errors and mistakes, make sure to stay connected with our channel for more stories of hidden treasures, remarkable coins, and the incredible history behind the change in your pocket. And as always, we look forward to having you with us on the next journey into the world of numismatics, where every coin has a story and sometimes that story is worth millions. Next, 1998 Lincoln penny. Today we are going to dive deep into one of the most intriguing and valuable discoveries ever discussed in modern numismatics, the 1998 1 cent coin, a coin that most people would never give a second thought to as it jingled in their pockets or slipped through their hands at a grocery store, yet because of a combination of rare minting errors, striking mistakes, and numismatic possibilities, certain examples of this coin have been valued as high as an astonishing $11 million, a price that seems almost unimaginable for something with a face value of a single cent, but in the realm of rare coins, rarity, error, and condition can combine in ways that elevate even the most common denomination to the level of a priceless treasure. And so in this script we will explore the history of the 1998 penny, the minting context that produced it, the specific kinds of errors and varieties that make it so highly sought after, the incredible collector demand that drives its value, and the thrilling possibilities that make this coin a legend among enthusiasts. Because to truly appreciate how a 1998 penny could be worth $11 million, we must first understand the background, the designs, the minting process, and how even small mishaps can change everything. So let us start with the basics. The 1998 Lincoln cent continued the long-standing design tradition that had been in place since 1959, featuring the bust of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909 to mark the centennial of Lincoln's birth, and the reverse featuring the Lincoln Memorial designed by Frank Gasparo, which had graced the coin for decades as a tribute to Lincoln's enduring legacy and American ideals, and in 1998 the Denver Mint, represented by the D mint mark beneath the date, produced hundreds of millions of these coins as part of the enormous mass of circulating cents. So when we consider errors and mistakes, we are looking at a handful of anomalies within a sea of billions, but those anomalies are what create treasures, because while most 1998 pennies are worth just 1 cent, a tiny fraction of them, due to extremely rare minting errors, have reached legendary status in the world of numismatics, and among those rare examples lies the one that has been tied to the $11 million valuation. And the excitement stems from both the types of errors and the condition in which they appear, so let us explore these in detail, beginning with doubled die. Errors, among the most famous and valuable categories in all of coin collecting, and a doubled die occurs when during the creation of the die itself, the hub impresses the design more than once at slightly different angles or positions, leaving behind distinct doubling on the coin's features, and on some 1998 cents dramatic doubling has been noted on the inscriptions such as Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and the date itself, as well as on parts of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, and this is not to be confused with machine doubling, which is far more common and far less valuable, because true doubled dies originate at the die creation level, making them much rarer and far more significant, and dramatic examples can elevate the coin into the stratosphere of collector demand. Then there are off-center strikes, which happen when the planchet is not perfectly seated in the press and the dies strike the coin off-center, leaving part of the design missing and part of the blank planchet exposed. And while small off-center strikes of a few percent are relatively common and modest in value, major off-center strikes of 50% or more, especially those where the full date and mint mark are still visible, are extremely rare and can command huge premiums. And when combined with pristine mint state condition, a 1998 off-center penny can become a treasure worth hundreds of thousands, pushing the rarity into the realm where multimillion-dollar examples are imaginable, especially if such a piece also carried another major error. Another error worth considering is the broad strike, which occurs when the collar die that normally holds the planchet in place malfunctions, allowing the coin to expand outward beyond its normal boundaries, creating a cent with a larger, flatter, distorted shape lacking proper rims. And while these errors can be collectible, dramatic examples, especially those combined with other errors, can become highly valuable. Then we have wrong planchet errors. Some of the most dramatic in numismatics, where a cent is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another denomination or even a foreign coin, and imagine a 1998 cent struck on a dime planchet, smaller and lighter, with parts of the design cut off around the edges. Such an error instantly becomes a rarity, often worth tens of thousands. And in the rarest cases where the error is both dramatic and unique, such pieces can rise to astronomical valuations. And these wrong planchet errors are so fascinating to collectors because they represent an intersection of two different worlds of coinage, producing a hybrid that should not exist. Another possibility is the die clash error, when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in place, transferring elements of each design onto the other die, and then when coins are struck afterward, faint ghost-like images of the opposite side appear on the coin, such as parts of Lincoln's bust appearing faintly on the reverse or parts of the memorial appearing on the obverse. And these die clash errors, especially when dramatic, are prized by collectors, because they provide a unique glimpse into the minting process and the accidents that can occur when machinery goes awry. Another category is die breaks and cuds, where a piece of the die itself breaks off, leaving a void that fills with raised metal during striking, producing blobs or raised areas on the coin that obscure parts of the design. And because each die break is unique and only produces a limited number of coins before being replaced, cut errors are especially collectible, with some dramatic examples being highly sought after. Additionally, we have struck-through errors, which occur when foreign materials such as grease, cloth, wire, or even another small piece of metal is between the die and planchet during striking, leaving behind a distinctive impression or void on the finished coin. And in some 1998 pennies struck through grease, errors have been reported where significant portions of the lettering or design appear faint or missing. And while small grease-filled dies are somewhat common, dramatic struck-through errors are far rarer and can significantly increase value. And beyond these mechanical errors there are transitional errors, which occur when a coin is struck using a composition, design, or die that does not match the intended specifications for that year. And while transitional errors are rare, they are some of the most valuable in the entire coin collecting world, and if a 1998 penny were struck accidentally on the wrong metal composition or with elements of a different design, it could instantly become a multi-million-dollar treasure, and that possibility is part of what drives collectors to examine every cent they come across, because one extraordinary find could change everything. But beyond the types of errors, the condition of the coin plays a vital role, because an error coin in poor circulated condition may be interesting but not worth life-changing sums, while a pristine, uncirculated, mint-state specimen with full luster, no scratches, and sharp details can fetch astronomical prices, especially when paired with a dramatic error. And when we speak of a 1998 penny worth $11 million, we are talking about a coin that combines extreme rarity, dramatic error, and pristine condition into one perfect storm. And auction dynamics also play a role, because when such a coin appears on the auction block, wealthy collectors and institutions compete fiercely to own it, driving the price higher and higher until it reaches unimaginable figures. And once such a sale occurs, the coin becomes legendary, its story spreading throughout the collecting community and inspiring countless others to search their own change for similar treasures. And we can see historical parallels in other famous pennies that achieved massive values, such as the 1955 double die cent, one of the most famous and beloved errors in history, with bold doubling that has made it iconic and valuable in the tens of thousands, or the 1943 copper cent mistakenly struck during World War II when pennies were supposed to be made of steel, with those copper cents selling for over $1 million, or the 1969 double die cent, another extreme rarity commanding hundreds of thousands. So when we consider the 1998 penny with an error valued at $11 million, it fits into this lineage of legendary rarities that captivate the imagination. And what makes this story even more exciting is that coins like the 1998 are modern enough that they could still be sitting in circulation today, unnoticed, waiting for someone to recognize them, and that possibility fuels the hobby, encouraging collectors to search rolls of pennies from banks, scour their pocket change, and carefully examine coins with magnification, hoping to be the one to uncover the next $1 million cent. And beyond the financial aspect, the fascination also lies in the history, the minting technology, and the way that human error, mechanical failure. Next, 2008 1-cent coin, a coin that despite its humble face value of just a penny has been reported in some extraordinary cases to carry a value of as much as $2 million because of the errors, mistakes, and unusual possibilities tied to its creation, survival, and discovery. And in this extended discussion we are going to explore everything that makes this coin so captivating. From the background of the U.S. Mint operations in 2008 to the technical aspects of minting, the types of errors that occurred, how those errors could have slipped through the strict quality control systems, how collectors identify them, why demand for them skyrockets in auctions, and how the story of a common 2008 cent turned into a multi-million-dollar marvel is more than just about money but about history, human error, chance, and the allure of hidden treasures in everyday life. Because in 2008 the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies, striking them on copper-coated zinc planchets at both Philadelphia and Denver, yet it was in this massive scale of production that mistakes occurred, and those mistakes transformed ordinary coins into rare artifacts of immense numismatic value. And among the errors we must discuss are the double die obverse, where Lincoln's portrait or inscriptions like "I in God We Trust" or "Liberty" appear doubled under magnification, creating a dramatic and collectible anomaly. Off-center strikes where the blank planchet was not properly aligned in the press, leading to a design that is partially missing or off balance. Broad strikes where the coin escaped the restraining collar and spread out larger and flatter than intended. Die clashes where the working dies struck each other without a coin between them, leaving impressions of the reverse design on the obverse or vice versa. Die cracks and cuts where fractures in the die left raised blobs of extra metal on the coin's surface. And even more exotic errors such as off-metal strikes where the penny design was struck on a blank meant for another denomination or foreign coin, and transitional errors where the wrong composition or wrong planchet was used. And while most of the billions of 2008 cents circulated without issue, a very tiny handful surfaced with these errors in dramatic and rare combinations, and it is those coins that fascinated collectors to the point of bidding them up to values in the $1 million range. with one of the most famous reported sales reaching an astonishing $2 million for a specimen combining a highly visible doubled die with other striking anomalies. And when you think about how such a coin is made, you realize the incredible odds, because the minting process is designed to be exact and consistent. But dies wear down, they shift, they crack, they clash, and in the high-speed environment of the mint some mistakes go unnoticed. Especially when quality control cannot catch every single misaligned or doubled coin among billions. And so once such a coin leaves the mint, it enters circulation just like any other penny, ending up in pocket change, jars, rolls from banks, or cash registers, until someone with a keen eye notices something unusual, and that discovery leads to grading and authentication from top-tier services like PCGS or NGC, and once authenticated, the rarity, condition, and story of the coin combine to push its value into the stratosphere. And this is exactly what happened with the 2008 1 cent that crossed into multimillion-dollar territory. Because it was in pristine mint state condition, the era was dramatic and undeniable, the rarity was unmatched, and the demand was fierce from collectors who knew that this was not just a penny but a piece of numismatic history. And when you think about the psychological and cultural factors behind why such a coin could sell for $2 million, you see that it is not just about the physical metal but about the story, the chance, and the dream of turning something as ordinary as a penny into something as extraordinary as a treasure, and that dream fuels the entire world of coin collecting, where people search through rolls and jars every day hoping to find the next hidden gem. And focusing on 2008 specifically, we can see that the year itself was unique, with rising interest in modern-era coins, increasing demand in online auction platforms, and a growing global community of collectors sharing discoveries and bidding against each other, which created the perfect environment for such coins to reach record prices. And to understand fully why the 2008 penny can be worth $2 million, we must break down the categories of errors in more detail, because each type of mistake carries its own weight in the market. For example, a simple off-center strike that is slightly misaligned may only be worth a few dollars. But a dramatic off-center strike where half the design is missing and the date is still visible can be worth hundreds or thousands. A double die where the doubling is minor and only visible under magnification may be interesting but not worth much, while a dramatic double die visible to the naked eye across Liberty or In God We Trust can become a legendary variety commanding enormous premiums. A broad strike that spreads the coin larger but preserves a sharp design can intrigue specialists. A die clash that leaves ghostly images can fascinate. And when these errors occur together on one coin, the rarity multiplies, creating what is known as a major mint error, and it is major mint errors from 2008 that command huge money. And among these we must also consider repunched mint marks, where the D or P was punched more than once into the die, leaving overlapping impressions. And although after 1990s the mint mark punching process changed, certain anomalies in 2008 still spark debate and collector interest. And then there are wrong planchet strikes. Perhaps the most dramatic error of all, where a cent design might appear on a dime or foreign coin blank, instantly creating a piece with the wrong weight and wrong metal, and such coins are often valued in the hundreds of thousands if authenticated. And if a 2008 cent with multiple such anomalies exists in pristine condition, it is no wonder that collectors could pay $2 million to own it, because in numismatics the value is always determined by rarity, demand, condition, and story. And the 2008 1 cent that reached that level had all of these factors in abundance, and this leads us to think about the journey of such a coin, how it survived minting, transport, circulation, and storage, how someone spotted it perhaps in a roll of cents from the bank, how they studied it under magnification, realized its uniqueness, and submitted it for grading, and how when it finally appeared at auction it created a storm of bidding among collectors who understood its significance, driving the price higher and higher until it reached the $2 million mark. And that story inspires thousands of people today to keep searching, to keep looking at every penny, because the possibility exists that another such treasure lies out there waiting to be discovered. And this possibility is what makes coin collecting so thrilling, because the hidden fortune might be sitting unnoticed in your change. And beyond the individual errors, we should also talk about the cultural moment of 2008. Because that was a year of economic uncertainty, a year when the symbolism of the humble penny resonated even more strongly, and the idea that a single penny could be worth 2 million was not just about numismatics but about hope, luck, and the extraordinary in the ordinary. And collectors love stories that tie into larger human experiences, which further drives the mystique and the value. And while some may find it hard to believe that a penny can be worth that much, auction records and private sales confirm that dramatic mint errors can indeed fetch millions, and so the 2008 1-cent worth 2 million stands as a shining example of how mistakes can create marvels, how errors can lead to treasures, and how the smallest coin can hold the biggest surprise. And if we examine other reported specimens from 2008, we see a wide range of interesting pieces, from pennies struck 30% off center, to coins with large die cracks resembling lightning bolts, to dramatic die clashes showing parts of Lincoln's memorial on the obverse, to coins struck on dime planchets creating thinner and lighter pennies, to brockage where one coin stuck to a die and impressed its image onto another, all of which demonstrate the unpredictable yet fascinating outcomes of the minting process. And each of these errors tells a story, each is a miniature artifact of history, and together they show why collectors devote so much energy to searching, studying, and preserving them. And when you consider all this, it becomes clear why a 2008 cent could command such an astronomical price. Because it represents not just a mistake but the perfect storm of rarity, drama, and desirability. And for those who wonder whether they might ever find one, the answer is yes, it is possible, because coins like these are discovered by ordinary people checking their change every year. And while most will not be worth millions, many will still be worth far more than their face value, and the thrill of the hunt is part of the reward. And so the story of the 2008 penny worth 2 million is not just about one coin but about the entire culture of numismatics, about the passion of collectors. Last, we take a deep dive into one of the most fascinating and surprising stories in modern coin collecting, a story that revolves around the unassuming 1999 1-cent coin, a coin most people would never think twice about spending, tossing into a jar, or overlooking in their change. Yet in rare and extraordinary circumstances it has been associated with values reaching as high as $16 million due to the combination of errors, mistakes, and unique minting anomalies that transform a common penny into an object of desire for collectors, historians, and investors alike. And in this video we will uncover exactly why this coin has generated so much excitement, what kinds of mint errors make it so valuable, the historical and technical background that gives context to its production, and how small variations, oversights, and mechanical mistakes in the minting process can give rise to a treasure hiding in plain sight. And as we begin, let's first situate ourselves in the late 1990s, a period when the United States Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents every year, mostly composed of copper-plated zinc after the 1982 transition from primarily copper coins, and these high-volume production runs made mistakes more likely, because machinery under stress and human oversight stretched thin could allow flawed dies or misaligned strikes to slip into circulation, creating anomalies that collectors now treasure. And the 1999 cent is particularly intriguing because Denver-minted coins from that year have been documented with multiple types of errors ranging from doubled dies to off-center strikes, broad strikes, misaligned dies, clipped planchets, die breaks, and even transitional anomalies. And any of these mistakes individually can add significant value, but when they occur in combination or in especially dramatic form, they can elevate a coin into the realm of multi-million-dollar rarity. And what makes the 1999 cent so fascinating is the convergence of possibilities. It is a year where the mint was pushing out huge volumes of coins to meet demand, when new die designs and maintenance cycles created conditions ripe for double die obverse, where improperly prepared planchets sometimes slipped through, and where even minute differences in strike pressure or hub alignment could generate noticeable doubling, distortions, or misplacements that eagle-eyed collectors later discovered. And among the most famous and valuable varieties linked to this year and mint are the double die obverse coins where features of Lincoln's portrait or inscriptions like Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the date itself show pronounced doubling. And these are dramatic and collectible because the doubling is not caused by simple mechanical doubling but by errors in the die creation process, meaning it is consistent across every coin struck from that flawed die, creating a true variety rather than a one-off mishap. And when such varieties are scarce, demand surges because every collector wants to add an example to their set, and when bidding wars ignite, prices can climb into the millions, especially for pristine mint-state examples graded highly by services like PCGS or NGC. And in addition to doubled dies, off-center strikes also play a role in raising values, because a coin that is 5%, 10%, or even 50% off-center becomes a visual curiosity, with parts of the design missing or shifted, showing the blank metal alongside the design, and such errors are rare because quality control usually discards them, but some escape, and collectors love them, and when combined with a mint mark like D for Denver, and a popular year like 1999, the rarity intensifies, and further adding to the mystique are broad strike errors, where the coin is struck without a collar, allowing it to expand beyond its normal diameter, creating a stretched, flattened look, and these also command premiums. And then there are clipped planchets, where the blank metal disc fed into the press has a curved or straight clip missing due to misfeeds during the punching of blanks from the metal sheet, and such clips create instantly recognizable and collectible oddities, and on top of these striking errors, die breaks and cuds, caused by cracks or pieces of the die breaking away, lead to raised blobs or missing details on the coin, which are dramatic and desirable, and in extreme cases entire sections of the design are obscured, creating a coin that looks wholly unique, and for the 1999 decent. Examples with such die breaks are sought after, with larger cuds worth far more than minor cracks, and beyond these classic mint errors lies the possibility of transitional or experimental anomalies, because sometimes planchets of the wrong composition or weight are accidentally struck, for instance if a cent were mistakenly struck on a dime planchet, creating a smaller, lighter coin with partial designs, or if leftover foreign coin planchets were fed into the press, and while exceedingly rare, such mistakes have happened in other years, and when discovered, they instantly catapult coins into extraordinary value ranges, because they combine rarity, visual difference, and historical intrigue, and when we consider all of these error types together, we can begin to understand why the 1999 D1-cent coin has been tied to multimillion-dollar valuations. Because it is not merely a single error type but the possibility of dramatic combinations, dramatic states of preservation, and intense collector demand that push the price skyward. And think for a moment about the psychology of collectors. Every person wants to own something unique, something with a story, something that stands apart, and a coin like this fulfills that desire perfectly. Because while billions of 1999 D cents were minted, only a handful may exhibit the extreme errors, and only a tiny fraction of those survive in pristine, uncirculated condition, and those are the coins that sell for astronomical prices at auction, sometimes reaching levels like $16 million when two determined bidders refuse to back down, and in that moment, the value is not just the sum of metal and history, but the raw passion of collecting, the prestige of ownership, and the thrill of rarity. And as we reflect on the 1999 D1-cent, it is important to realize that part of what makes such coins valuable is also the mystery, the what-if factor, because every time you check your pocket change, you have the chance, no matter how slim, of discovering one of these errors, and that dream fuels the hobby, motivates the searchers, and keeps stories like this alive. And so when we talk about why a 1999 D-cent can reach $16 million, we are really talking about a combination of minting history, technical mistakes, collector psychology, auction dynamics, and above all, rarity. Because rarity and demand are the twin engines of value in numismatics, and they turn the ordinary into the extraordinary, the overlooked into the legendary, and the penny into a fortune. And as we close this exploration, let us remember that the world of coins is filled with stories like this, stories of mistakes becoming miracles, of errors becoming treasures, and of humble objects becoming symbols of passion, history, and wealth. And the 1999 D1-cent valued at $16 million is one of the greatest examples of that truth. So keep your eyes open, because the next time you see a penny, it might just be worth a fortune. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most remarkable modern rarities, make sure to stay connected for more stories like this that reveal the hidden treasures in everyday change. Because in the world of numismatics, the next $1,000,000 coin could be hiding in your pocket right now. And with that, thank you for watching, and we look forward to sharing more incredible stories with you soon. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us again for the next exciting chapter in the hunt for hidden value.